Welcome in, everybody. We are diving deep today into something truly fascinating. It's the feminine psychedelic journey. You guys sent over a really interesting collection of sources this time, exploring, it's psychedelics,
Yeah.
spirituality, and those powerful feminine archetypes.
A really rich tapestry.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to jump into it. So we've got ancient rituals and groundbreaking research, and even personal tales of transformation. We even got thought-provoking theories about the role of the Vatican.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Quite a ride.
Yeah. You know, what really strikes me is how often we associate psychedelics with the 60s, the counterculture movement. But these sources point to a much longer and more nuanced relationship with, between entheogens and, humanity's search for the divine, and particularly through this feminine lens.
Right. Okay, so let's start untangling some of these threads. One of the sources, the immortality key, makes a pretty bold claim. It suggests that the use of entheogens in spiritual practices, it says it might go back tens of thousands of years.
Wow. That long timeline really kind of shifts our perspective, doesn't it? But what's even more intriguing is the evidence about the presence of psychedelic imagery in Christian art and architecture. We often think of these as very distinct worlds, right? Psychedelics, organized religion. But these sources suggest a connection that's been largely overlooked.
Totally. Yeah, and it's not every day you hear about mushrooms in a church. Several sources mention, they mention depictions of psilocybin mushrooms in places like Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland and even the Church of St. Martin in France.
And what's particularly interesting is that it's not just like any mushroom. The Amanita muscaria, which is, often associated with shamanic traditions, is, it's prominently featured in the art and architecture of St. Michael's Church in Hildesheim, Germany.
So we're seeing these mushroom motifs popping up in Christian iconography all across Europe.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to make of this?
Well, it certainly challenges the traditional narrative, doesn't it? It kind of suggests that entheogens might have played a role in experiencing the divine within Christianity. And, it's a concept that's been largely absent from the mainstream understanding of the religion.
Yeah, that brings up a whole host of questions.
It does.
And the immortality key actually goes even further. It suggests that the Vatican may have actively tried to suppress knowledge of psychedelic use in religious rituals.
This is where things get a bit controversial. The book highlights the case of Giordano Bruno. He was a Dominican friar who was burned at the stake for heresy. And, one of the accusations against him was his belief in, I think it was called a drug of immortality, which, it involved the use of plants and drugs for, enlightenment.
It makes you wonder what other practices or knowledge might have been lost or deliberately obscured over the centuries.
Yeah, it's pretty thought-provoking. If individuals could connect with the divine directly, through these experiences, it might have been perceived as a threat to the church's authority.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and, delve into one of the most well-known examples of ancient ritualistic psychedelic use, the Eleusinian mysteries.
Right.
These were a set of secret rites practiced in ancient Greece and devoted to the goddesses Demeter and Persephone.
Right. And while the exact details of these mysteries remain well shrouded in secrecy, there's a lot of speculation that a special potion called kykeon played a crucial role.
Right.
And many scholars believe this potion contained psychoactive ingredients, which allowed the initiates to access these altered states of consciousness.
So what was actually in this mysterious kykeon?
Well, there's been a lot of debate about that. Some researchers believe that ergot, a fungus that grows on rye, was a key component because it can produce LSD-like effects. Yeah, and interestingly, ergot was found in a miniature chalice from a cultic area in Spain, potentially linking it to the consumption of kykeon.
That's a pretty direct connection.
It is.
Are we talking about ancient Greek raves here?
Well, perhaps not quite like that, but it does seem like they were intentionally using substances to alter their consciousness as part of their spiritual practices. And, if you look at the myths surrounding Demeter and Persephone, the themes of death and rebirth and, the descent into the underworld, the cyclical nature of life, those all resonate with some common themes in psychedelic experiences. It makes you wonder if those myths, were inspired by these altered states of consciousness.
You can't talk about ancient Greece and altered states without bringing up Dionysus, right? the god of wine and ecstasy.
Absolutely. Dionysus was often linked with these mystery cults. And, it's important to remember that wine in ancient times wasn't always what we think of today.
You mean it wasn't just fermented grapes?
Exactly. There's evidence that they intentionally added other ingredients to the wine, potentially psychoactive ones, to enhance its effects. One example is Trima. It was a special wine blend made for the audience at the Theater of Dionysus in Athens.
So, imagine ancient Greek theater goers having these intensely heightened experiences, fueled by something a little more potent than your average Cabernet.
Right. And what's even more fascinating is that, this wasn't just a Greek thing. Archaeological evidence suggests that, that spiked wine was also common in ancient Galilee, the region where Jesus lived.
Hold on, are you saying that people in Jesus' time were drinking psychedelic wine?
It seems so. At the Tel Kabri site in Galilee, archaeologists discovered 40 jars of herbal wine dating back to 1700 BC. And the analysis showed, it showed a complex blend that was aimed at, at preservation and taste and, intriguingly, psychoactivity.
That really changes how I picture that period. But how does the feminine experience specifically tie into all of this?
Yeah.
These rituals and these gods and goddesses, these altered states. Where does the feminine come in?
That's where our understanding of archetypes becomes really valuable. One of the sources you provided, Goddesses in Every Woman, dives into Jungian psychology and the feminine archetypes. You've got Hera, Demeter, Persephone, Aphrodite, Artemis, Athena, Hestia. Each represents different aspects of the feminine.
Right. I remember this book. It's about how these archetypes manifest in women's personalities and lives.
Right.
But I'm curious, how do these archetypes connect to the psychedelic experience?
Well, imagine how these archetypes, which represent different aspects of the feminine psyche, might be amplified or transformed during an entheogenic journey. For example, a woman who strongly identifies with Demeter, the nurturing mother, might experience an even deeper connection to that energy.
Okay, so I'm starting to see the connection here.
Right.
Could a psychedelic experience then lead her to a deeper understanding of her own maternal instincts, or even a stronger connection to the cycles of nature?
Exactly. It's about exploring how these ancient practices and these modern psychological insights can help us understand the feminine divine in a new light. And speaking of modern insights, it's time we turn our attention to the contemporary research on psychedelics.
It's pretty amazing to think that after centuries of these practices being shrouded in secrecy, there's now like a resurgence of research exploring the therapeutic potential of psychedelics.
It really is a remarkable shift, and it's not just happening in the shadows. It's at some of the most respected institutions around the world where we're seeing like a real change in how the scientific community views these substances, moving beyond the stigma and recognizing their potential for healing.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it feels like we're finally catching up to some of this ancient wisdom, but now we've got the tools of modern science to really understand how these substances work and how we can use them safely and effectively.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that it's not just about, treating mental health issues. These psychedelic experiences can also, they can also facilitate profound personal growth and transformation.
Right.
Even for those who aren't struggling with a specific condition.
Right. It's about expanding our consciousness and breaking free from those limiting beliefs, and maybe even forging a deeper connection to something greater than ourselves.
Exactly, and this brings us back to the feminine aspect of this journey. For centuries, women have been marginalized and even demonized for their association with healing and intuition and mystical practices. Think about the witch hunts. The persecution of women who held knowledge of plants and their medicinal properties. It's a dark part of our history, but one that we need to acknowledge.
It's almost like there's like a reclaiming happening now, like a rediscovering of these lost aspects of the feminine, like a recognition that intuition and empathy are just as valuable as logic and reason.
That's a powerful observation.
Yeah.
And I think this resurgence of interest in psychedelics, especially when viewed through the lens of the feminine, offers us a chance to to heal those old wounds and create a more balanced and interconnected understanding of the world.
So could embracing these feminine qualities through psychedelic experiences pave the way for a more balanced and interconnected understanding of of ourselves and the world around us?
That's a beautiful question. And while there's no easy answer, no single path to enlightenment, I believe that these ancient practices, coupled with modern scientific research, give us like a unique opportunity to expand our consciousness and maybe even rediscover that divine feminine within each of us.
Earlier we touched upon the Vatican's possible suppression of entheogenic knowledge, and it's a controversial topic, but one that I think deserves further exploration. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a complex issue, and it's important to approach it with a critical yet open mind. While some scholars believe that the church actively sought to suppress knowledge of entheogens, others argue that it was more a matter of shifting cultural norms and changing power dynamics.
A more nuanced perspective than simply saying the Vatican was out to get everyone who used psychedelics.
Exactly, and it's important to remember that the church's relationship with these practices has likely evolved over time. What might have been seen as a threat in one era might be interpreted differently in another.
Right. It's like like anything in history, rarely black and white. We have to consider the full context to understand the forces at play.
Precisely, and this exploration of history reminds us that we're constantly uncovering new information and re-examining old narratives and challenging our assumptions. It's a process of ongoing discovery.
Speaking of discovery, let's talk about the modern research on psychedelics. From what I've read, there's been a real explosion of interest in the therapeutic potential of these substances for conditions like depression and anxiety and addiction.
Absolutely. We're seeing groundbreaking studies being conducted at places like Johns Hopkins University and Imperial College London and UCLA, to name just a few.
Yeah.
And the results are incredibly promising. For example, studies using psilocybin, the psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms, have shown remarkable success in treating treatment-resistant depression.
Wow, it's almost like psychedelics offer a way to reset or rewire the brain, allowing people to break free from those deeply ingrained patterns of negative thinking and behavior.
That's a good way to put it. Psychedelics seem to facilitate a kind of neuroplasticity, allowing the brain to form new connections and pathways. This could explain why why they're showing such promise in treating conditions that are often resistant to traditional therapies.
It's really exciting to think about the potential here.
It is.
But it's also important to remember that these are powerful substances, and they should be used responsibly and with proper guidance.
Absolutely. Set and setting are crucial when it comes to psychedelic experiences. That means having a safe and supportive environment, as well as an experienced guide or facilitator who can help you navigate the experience and integrate the insights you gain.
Right. It's not something to be taken lightly. Now, earlier we discussed the Eleusinian mysteries and their use of the kykeon.
Yeah.
It made me think about how these ancient cultures seem to understand the importance of ritual and ceremony when it came to these psychedelic experiences. Do you think we've lost something in modern society by abandoning those practices?
That's a really thought-provoking question. I do think there's something to be said for creating a sacred container, a space of reverence and intention when working with these powerful substances.
It's not just about popping a pill or taking a substance. It's about It's about approaching the experience with with a sense of purpose and respect.
Precisely. And I think many of the indigenous cultures that have used psychedelics for centuries have a deep understanding of this. They recognize that these are not just, like drugs, but tools for healing and transformation and connecting with the divine.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it, and it brings us back to to the feminine aspect of this journey. These ancient cultures often, they often revered the feminine and in the earth and the cycles of nature. Do you think there's a connection there between the feminine and these psychedelic experiences?
No, I think there's a very deep connection. Psychedelics, in a way, dissolve boundaries, helping us to connect with the interconnectedness of all things, and
Yeah.
and that interconnectedness, that sense of unity and flow is often associated with the feminine principle.
So by tapping into these psychedelic states, we're also tapping into a more feminine way of being, a way of experiencing the world that's less about control and dominance and more about surrender and flow.
Exactly, and I think that's a really important message for our time in a world that often feels fractured and divided. These experiences offer us a glimpse of a different way of being, a way of relating to ourselves, to each other, and to the planet that's more harmonious and whole.
That's a powerful insight, and it makes me wonder if more people embrace this feminine way of being, would it lead to a more compassionate and just world? What do you think?
It's a beautiful question, and one that that each of us needs to ponder. While there's no simple answer, I believe that cultivating these qualities of empathy and intuition and interconnectedness, whether through psychedelic experiences or other pathways, can help us create a more loving and compassionate world.
Wow, it's incredible to think about just how much ground we've covered.
Yeah.
From ancient rituals to like modern research, from Christian iconography to the Enneagram.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really paints like a rich picture of this intersection between psychedelics and spirituality and the feminine. But there's one more source I kind of want to touch on before we wrap things up. It's Breaking Open the Head. It focuses on the author's personal experiences with psychedelics, particularly in the context of indigenous cultures.
That's a powerful book, and it brings in an element we haven't really fully explored yet. Like the lived experience, the personal transformation that can occur through these entheogenic journeys, the author's encounters with shamans and their deep knowledge of plants and altered states of consciousness. It really highlights the importance of approaching these experiences with respect and humility.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that these substances aren't just recreational drugs, right?
Yeah.
They have a long history of being used for spiritual and healing purposes, and it's crucial to honor that tradition.
Absolutely, and it ties back to to something we've been discussing throughout this whole deep dive, the idea that that these experiences can help us reconnect with with the feminine principle, with intuition, with a sense of interconnectedness. The author's descriptions of his journeys, particularly the encounters with like female shamans and their wisdom, really reinforce that connection.
It seems like there's a theme emerging here, right? That the feminine, in many ways, has been the keeper of this, this ancient knowledge, this understanding of the power of plants and altered states of consciousness.
That's a really insightful observation, and
Yeah.
it makes me think about how the suppression of the feminine, like throughout history, has also been a suppression of of this wisdom, this way of knowing and being in the world.
Yeah, it's a sobering thought, but also a hopeful one, right? Because as we reclaim the feminine, as we rediscover these ancient practices, we're also reclaiming a part of ourselves that's been lost or forgotten.
Yeah.
And and I think that's what makes this whole conversation so relevant, so timely.
Right.
We're living in a world that desperately needs this kind of healing, this kind of reconnection,
Right.
and these psychedelic experiences, particularly when viewed through the lens of the feminine, offer us they offer us a powerful pathway to that healing.
It's been an incredible journey exploring these ideas with you. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of the feminine psychedelic journey,
Me too.
its history, its potential, and its deep relevance to our lives today. It's been a pleasure sharing this exploration with you, and I hope this deep dive has sparked a sense of wonder and curiosity in you, and maybe even inspired you to explore these ideas further on your own.
As we wrap up, there's one question that keeps coming back to me.
Okay.
If embracing the feminine aspects of intuition and healing and expansion, like through these experiences, is so powerful, could it actually pave the way for a more balanced and interconnected understanding of the divine? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a beautiful question, and one that that I think we each need to grapple with individually.
Right.
But I do believe that these experiences, when approached with respect and intention, can help us expand our understanding of the divine, to see beyond the limitations of dogma and tradition, and to embrace a more holistic and an inclusive view of spirituality.
And maybe, just maybe, that expanded understanding of the divine could help us create a more compassionate and just and harmonious world.
It could.
It's something to ponder, isn't
It
it?
certainly is, and I think that's a perfect note to end on, a note of possibility and hope, and of continued exploration.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've enjoyed the journey as much as we have.